What if I told you that one single explosion in a remote desert, thousands of miles from Washington, D.C., didn't just test a weapon, it erased America's greatest strategic advantage, turned the Cold War hot, and pushed humanity closer to annihilation than ever before. For 4 years after the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the United States stood alone as the world's only nuclear power. That monopoly was not just a military edge. It was the backbone of American foreign policy, a shield against Soviet expansion in Europe, and a silent threat that kept the post-war order from collapsing into full-scale war. Every decision in the Truman administration, every negotiation with Stalin, every move in the emerging Cold War rested on the unchallenged fact that America held the key to the most destructive force ever created by man. Top military and scientific advisors assured Truman that the Soviet Union lacked the industrial capacity, the raw materials, and most importantly, the critical technical knowledge to build an atomic bomb for at least another 5 to 10 years. They were wrong, dead wrong. Let's rewind to the heart of the Second World War, when the Manhattan Project operated in the strictest secrecy, hidden away in desert labs and hidden facilities across the United States. What the American government did not know was that a shadowy spy network, led by one of the project's most brilliant minds, was feeding every vital secret directly to Moscow. That man was Klaus Fuchs, a German-born British physicist, a refugee from Nazi Germany, and a committed communist who believed atomic secrets should be shared to balance global power. Fuchs was not a low-level technician. He was a core member of the theoretical division at Los Alamos, working directly on the implosion design of the Fat Man bomb, the same design that would level Nagasaki. He attended the Trinity test, the first ever nuclear detonation, and held access to blueprints, yield calculations, uranium enrichment methods, and the precise mechanics of triggering a fission reaction. Over the course of 2 years, Fuchs passed handwritten notes, microfilm, and detailed technical data to Soviet couriers, including Harry Gold, a KGB operative operating under the codename Raymond. These secrets were not trivial. They gave Soviet nuclear chief Igor Kurchatov a step-by-step blueprint to skip years of trial and error. Kurchatov later admitted that Fuchs' intelligence forced a complete rewrite of the Soviet atomic program, cutting their development timeline by at least 2 full years. This was not just spying. It was the transfer of a doomsday technology from the world's most powerful nation to its most dangerous rival. By 1946, the Soviet nuclear program, codenamed First Lightning, shifted into overdrive. Stalin placed the feared secret police chief, Lavrenti Beria, in charge, turning the project into a ruthless, no-failure operation. Tens of thousands of laborers, many from Soviet prison camps, built the secret test site at Semipalatinsk, a remote arid plain in northeastern Kazakhstan. The facility was carved out of nowhere, towers control, bunkers monitoring stations, and all the infrastructure needed to stage a nuclear test. The bomb itself, designated RDS-1, was a near-perfect copy of the American Fat Man device. Same implosion lens, same plutonium core, same trigger system. Western intelligence would later codename this device Joe 1, in a dismissive nod to Joseph Stalin. On the morning of August 29, 1949, at exactly 7 o'clock Universal Time Coordinated, the bomb was suspended from a 37-meter steel tower, surrounded by test structures, vehicles, and even animal subjects, to measure the blast impact. The sky over Semipalatinsk was clear, the air still, as scientists and military officials huddled in a concrete control bunker miles away. A countdown began. Every eye was fixed on the tower. Every breath held at zero. A flash brighter than 1,000 suns erupted across the desert. A shockwave rippled outward, flattening everything in its path. A towering mushroom cloud rose into the stratosphere, burning a permanent mark into the sky. The blast yield measured 22 kilotons, almost identical to the Nagasaki bomb. The Soviet Union had just become the world's second nuclear power. Half a world away, America had no idea what had just happened. For 6 days, the test remained a closely guarded Kremlin secret. Then, on September 3rd, a U.S. Air Force WB-29 weather plane, fitted with radiation detection equipment, flew a routine mission off the coast of Siberia. It collected air samples loaded with radioactive isotopes, fission byproducts that could only come from a recent atomic explosion. The data was rushed back to laboratories, where analysts confirmed the unthinkable: the Soviets had tested a nuclear bomb. When the report landed on President Harry Truman's desk, he refused to believe it. He ordered repeated verification, demanding his top scientists and military advisors double-check every reading. He could not accept that America's nuclear shield had been shattered without a single shot fired. By September the 14th, a special panel led by Vannevar Bush and Robert Oppenheimer delivered a unanimous verdict: the evidence was irrefutable. The Soviet atomic bomb was real. On September the 23rd, 1949, Truman stood before the nation and issued a short, somber statement. We have evidence that within recent weeks an atomic explosion occurred in the USSR. He tried to calm fears by claiming such a development was long expected. But behind closed doors, panic swept through the White House, the Pentagon, and the CIA. The unthinkable had become reality. The fallout from Joe 1 was immediate and catastrophic for American strategy. The nuclear monopoly that had anchored U.S. foreign policy was gone. Overnight, the Cold War transformed from a war of words and proxy tensions into a nuclear arms race that would last decades. Truman's administration faced a crisis: either accept a nuclear balance of power or rush to build a far more devastating weapon to regain superiority. The answer came quickly: the push for the hydrogen bomb, a thermonuclear device hundreds of times more powerful than atomic bombs. This decision set off a cycle of escalation that would define the next 40 years. NATO was strengthened, military budgets exploded, civil defense drills became a part of American life, and the doctrine of mutually assured destruction was born. The world now lived under the constant threat of nuclear annihilation, a fear that seeped into every corner of society. Schools taught children to duck and cover. Families built fallout shelters. Governments prepared for a war that could end civilization. The spy ring that enabled the Soviet test was soon exposed. Klaus Fuchs confessed to British authorities in early 1950, leading to the arrest of Harry Gold, and eventually the Rosenbergs, whose trial and execution became one of the most controversial episodes of the early Cold War. The case exposed deep vulnerabilities in American security, fueling anti-communist paranoia and the rise of McCarthyism. What makes this event so haunting is not just the science or the spying, it is the human cost of a secret that changed the world. Fuchs acted out of ideological conviction, believing he was balancing power to prevent nuclear imperialism. Soviet scientists worked under relentless pressure, risking their lives to deliver a weapon that would protect their nation. American leaders were blinded by arrogance, convinced their technological lead was unassailable. The test at Semipalatinsk was more than a military milestone. It was a turning point in human history. It ended the brief era of American nuclear invulnerability, turned the Cold War into a permanent standoff, and created a world where one mistake could trigger global catastrophe. We often remember the bombs dropped on Japan as the start of the nuclear age, but it was the Soviet test of 1949 that truly locked humanity into the nuclear era we still live in today. It revealed that no nation can keep a weapon of mass destruction secret forever, that espionage can rewrite the rules of global power, and that the pursuit of security can lead to a far more dangerous world. Every nuclear treaty, every arms control agreement, every fear of nuclear proliferation traces its roots back to that quiet morning in the Kazakh desert, when a single bomb erased America's monopoly and changed everything. If you enjoyed this deep dive into American history, hit like, drop a comment, and subscribe for more epic history.